5 board members, so I'm calling this meeting to order. I would remind everyone that we are videotaping this meeting and also recording voices, so if you end up speaking, you will be videotaped during this proceeding. The first matter that I had placed on the agenda was the code of conduct, a draft that Andy and I put together, stealing liberally from a library that had a code of conduct that seemed to fit many of the possibilities for Oakmont. I, at an earlier board meeting, indicated that I was in favor of having such a code of conduct and would be in the process of putting a draft together for the board's consideration. The board has not really considered such a code of conduct yet, and it has not discussed it, so I don't know exactly where the board will be coming from in reference to this. While preparing the code of conduct, I also discovered that in the past there was a committee, an ad hoc committee with Hugh Helm was on it, and I don't know the other members who were on it, who were charged by, I believe, John Taylor to prepare a employee abuse policy. In the past, we've had occasions where employees have been abused by members of Oakmont, either verbally abused or well, one guy jumped over the railing at the OVA office. He was so mad, jumped, not the railing, but the, you know what I mean? The counter. He jumped over the counter. He was so mad, and we don't want that sort of thing happening. I guess there also was an incident at the swimming pool at one time where someone just really got irate and was threatening the pool monitors, and it was just a really nasty scene and that sort of thing. So in the past, we've had occasions where employees have been subjected to, you might say, abuse where it shouldn't be. That should not be. Basically, the situation is that the employees work for OVA, they work for the board, and particularly since I'm in charge of managing OVA and Cassie is the manager of OVA, they work for Cassie and me also. But we have an obligation to protect them against abusive behavior. I mean, you just can't have that occurring to your employees. So if someone has a complaint about an employee, they really should be coming to the board, they should be coming to Cassie and airing their complaints there rather than taking on the employees individually. These employees are trained as best we can make them, but sometimes they have specific jobs or specific duties, and they may not know what in the hell you're asking them or what you're trying to accomplish, and all of a sudden the member gets very, very upset with it. So anyhow, Hugh Helm and his ad hoc committee put a lot of time into drafting a proposed abuse policy, employee abuse policy, and I thought that generally they concerned similar ideas about protecting against what you would call bad conduct. We weren't raised to be that way, to do that, and to act that sort of way. So the board members have a copy of the draft. I'd first like to entertain just general comments from the board as to whether they want to pursue this particular item, both the abuse policy and the code of conduct policy. And then if we do want to pursue it, we have to decide, well, what's the next step? That is, do we bring in the attorney to put it in final form to give us suggestions? And then we'll have to have it published in the Oakmont News or on the website so that the public can see what we're doing and get their input, that sort of thing. So let's open it up to the board first. Any comments about whether we should have such policies?
Well, I think we absolutely, definitely need this policy. It's like a fire extinguisher. You don't need it until you need it. And then you don't have it. Luckily, this kind of a problem hasn't come up too often. When it does, it has the potential to be very nasty. A lot of hurt feelings. You can lose employees. It's just been, luckily, we haven't run into anything that blew up beyond what it did. I think that we're beyond the point where we should put this in place, and I've read it over and happy with the way it's worded.
Excuse me, I was struck by the comparative brevity of the code of conduct, which this first one I presume is the one that you worked up.
Andy and I worked it up, yes.
Yeah. I say I appreciate the brevity of that compared to many of the things that came out of that committee, which were rather lengthy. I just want to make, and it seems to me that you've covered most of the bases of employee abuse as well as other misuse of employee premises in your, I just want to make sure that it would take me some study, and I haven't taken the time to do it, to make sure that we're covering all the bases. And I don't know whether we need another further committee on this, or that's all. I haven't studied it closely enough other than reading each one to wonder whether we can go forward with this or whether we need any more study on the thing.
Okay, any other comments? Andy?
As far as the code of conduct is concerned, given that we worked on it, I don't have anything but positive comments on it. I think we did a great job. And Herm, I thank you for those other comments, because we tried to make it, or Frank tried to make it as simple and as clean as possible so it was understood by all. As far as the employee abuse policies are concerned, I think we have to relook at those a little bit as to what we have as the draft, and I do feel that we need to put something in place. I was actually there that day when it happened in the office, and the homeowner jumped the counter and had to spend a day in court swearing out a temporary restraining order as well, so it couldn't happen again. So and being on the architecture committee, I was also in a few situations where I was in an abusive situation. So I think that's an important step in the right direction to know people can have to have better conduct.
Okay, are there any objections to pursuing this idea of a code of conduct? Okay, for the audience benefit, let me give you an indication of generally what we're talking about as far as the code of conduct.
You might want to just read the order.
Well, I can read it, okay? There's one paragraph I will read that needs to be reworked extensively, and when I get to it, I'll mention it. The rest of it seems to be somewhat like common sense, but who knows? Code of Conduct governing OVA premises. The purpose of the Oakmont Village Association Code of Conduct governing OVA premises is to protect the rights and safety of members, guests, and staff members, and to protect the association's facilities and property. These rules of conduct shall apply to all buildings, interior and exterior, and all grounds controlled and operated by the OVA. Such buildings and grounds are hereinafter referred to as the premises. And to all persons entering in or on the premises. Persons who violate these rules of conduct may be ejected from the premises, subjected to prosecution for violation of any applicable federal, state, or local criminal statute, and or fined, and have their membership privileges suspended as set forth below. The following are the rules of conduct setting forth the prohibited conduct on the premises. 1. Committing or attempting to commit any activity that would constitute a violation of any federal, state, or local criminal statute or ordinance. That seems quite obvious. 2. Directing a specific threat of physical harm against any individual, group of individuals, or property. 3. Engaging in conduct that disrupts or interferes with the normal operation of the premises or disturbs other members, guests, or staff, including, but not limited to, conduct that involves abusive or threatening language or gestures, or conduct that creates unreasonable noise. 4. Using OVA materials, distributing written materials, using OVA materials, equipment, furniture, fixtures, or buildings in a manner inconsistent with the customary use thereof, or in a destructive, abusive, or potentially damaging manner, or in a manner likely to cause personal injury to users or others. 5, and this is the paragraph that I would want the attorney to rework, because this deals with right of free speech, which I'm very much in favor of free speech, and I'm not sure this accomplishes what I want, or in my opinion, and what the board may want, but I just put something together, and it reads something to this effect. Soliciting, petitioning, distributing written materials, or demonstrating for a political, charitable, or religious purpose inside OVA buildings, including the doorway or vestibule of any such premise, and soliciting, petitioning, distributing written materials, or demonstrating for a political, charitable, or religious purpose in a manner on the OVA premises that unreasonably interferes with access to the building, doorway, or vestibule. This needs to be reworked.
Yeah.
Basically, the whole reason this all came up was because of the incident that occurred at the OVA Central Activity Center, where there was, at that time, a group legally petitioning with inside the building. An opposing group came in and sat next to them, and everything was going fine for a while, and then a very big explosion occurred, a very ugly incident occurred. And it just should not have happened inside that particular building. Basically, you know, that's our library, our fitness center, our card room, our lobby. I see people there putting puzzles together. They sit there, have polite conversations with each other. They have a cup of coffee. They read a magazine from the rack, things of that nature. It's very much almost like a library setting, okay? And we shouldn't have, you know, explosive conduct occurring inside of our building like that. Now, but I'm also conscious of the fact that we've got to protect the rights of our members to petition, to solicit, and to basically exercise all of the rights of free speech. So I'm not quite sure how to accomplish keeping, you know, the OVA Central Activity Center the way it's intended to be, and still protect the rights. After we talk to the attorney may say, no, we should allow petitioning to go inside the building. I don't know, but I want our attorney to take a look at it and give us a suggestion on that. So that's the one thing that bothers me about what I've written up so far. I'm not quite satisfied with the way it's worded. Prohibited, okay, continue with prohibited activity. Smoking, any use or preparation of tobacco, or any use of, or preparation of vaping devices or substances on the premises. 7, bringing of animals inside OVA premises, with the exception of service animals, except as allowed at an OVA-approved event, or leaving an animal tethered or unattended on OVA premises. 8, using personal equipment at a volume that disturbs others on the premises, including but not limited to pagers, stereos, televisions, and cellular telephones. Persons found violating the above OVA rules of conduct shall be subject to fines and/or suspension of their membership privileges in the manner set forth in the OVA Hearing Procedure Enforcement and Fine Policy for violations of the governing documents. You may recall that we established a fines policy for architectural violations, and we could probably reference all of the procedures set forth in that particular fine policy, and we can reference it in reference to the code of conduct. That is, if somebody, say, committed a crime inside a building, okay, we could just send a warning and say, don't commit that crime again, okay? Or don't do that conduct again. It could just be a warning, say, you know, we don't want that happening, you know, on our premises and all that. If it persists or if the incident is bad enough, then we have to go through a due process hearing. The board is the only representative that can have that hearing. That is, we can't delegate it to a committee of 3 of our citizens to hear it and make a decision, that sort of thing. That really, the buck stops with the board. Our bylaws provide, as far as the architectural violations, that we have an architectural committee which first hears all violations and then recommends to the board whether a violation should be imposed or not. Again, though, the board is the ultimate decider. It has to come before the board. So, in order to have a policy like this, we would have to have a process which would give due process to all the parties involved, which means we would probably have to call witnesses, things of that nature, and then the board would have to make a decision at that point. Then our fine policy says you can give warnings, you can impose fines, you can suspend membership privileges, that sort of thing. So it would be a case-by-case basis, just determining, you know, what this conduct might warrant. So anyhow, that generally is what we're coming up with, or what Andy and I have come up with so far. But I really need to have the attorney take a look at it.
I'm a little bit confused at one point, probably easily settled. We started talking about an employee abuse problem where they're abused by the residents here, and then we went on to talk about residents' code of conduct. Are we rolling that into one, or are we looking at them separately?
I think the board should look at them separately in terms of what we decide to do next. However, I think our attorney will be looking at them both together. It may be that they can be combined into one policy, the employee abuse policy as well as the code of conduct, so that we don't have two policies. Herm?
Just a quick comment on number 6. We have I see nothing wrong with leaving this in here. However, we do have a separate comprehensive policy on smoking that is separate from, you know, it's already one of our policies, just a comment. And I do think that while we need to look at employee abuse and this separately, I would hope that the long-range policy could include everything in one policy if possible.
Right. Also, we have a dog policy too, so we'd be implementing that individual policy, just putting it into a general policy. The other one involving the employee abuse, that really has to be reworked with an attorney. There are certain laws we have to comply with, and it can be a very touchy matter when you're dealing with such things as that. And we've already obtained a letter from our attorney pointing out some of the hazards that we may face and that we should consider in doing something like this. I can give you some general idea, though, of what we're talking about. When communicating with employees, contractors, and volunteers, the following words and actions by a member, guest, tenant, or other resident shall constitute a violation of this policy and shall subject the responsible member to penalties as provided under the OVA Uniform Hearing Procedures and Penalty Policy. Be disrespectful, impolite, or rude. Issue orders or instructions. Make demands. Scold or admonish. Use profanity or obscenities. Defamation. Use of any form of intimidation, bullying, or hostility. I mean, that's just, I don't know, I was brought up to be that way. I don't know about everybody else, but you know, you just don't treat people that way. Our attorney, though, needs to take a look at this and make sure that we're not being too general and violating people's rights of free speech. I mean, that's very important. But you understand what the intent is. The intent is to protect our employees, and if you've got problems, bring it to the board or bring it to Cassie and not to the employee. I mean, it's as simple as that. So, that generally is what we're talking about. Okay, well, you want to just bring the audience into this now. Since you're here in workshops, we normally bring the audience in and get their ideas and opinions too. So, did you have it? Yes.
Yeah, just some questions for clarification on what you just presented. I heard John asking the question about is the employee abuse policy separate from this code of conduct? And I'm getting the impression the way it was presented, they're meant to be two separate things that belong together in the bigger picture. but they'll be separate documents. Is that correct?
I don't know, I wanted an attorney's opinion on it. They've been written up separately, and they probably will end up being separate. But if we could save money with the attorney and put it in one policy, we might do it.
So there are 3 questions connected to that. Okay, they're all very brief. I heard somebody say that this is a resident code of conduct. I'm assuming if we're coming up with a code of conduct, it would be a code of conduct that includes residence, administration, and governance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not comprehensive.
We could do that. I assume OVA members includes everybody. I'm an OVA member, she's an OVA member, all OVA members. So anybody who's an OVA member, or their tenants, guests, or other OVA residents, that would be renters, all come within under this.
What I'm trying to make the distinction is there's different functions within the community. And so we have a governance function and we have an administrative function. And the code of conduct should include those bodies also. And if you need me to elaborate, I'm more than willing, but that's not the point right now. I'm just bringing that up.
Okay.
I heard it as a resident code of conduct, and therefore I was asking the question. The second thing was, I heard you say that there's a policy already in place around fines. Is there a procedure also in place so that the procedure is followed exactly the same way in every situation to guarantee that the people who are brought before this fine, process is guaranteed due process?
That would be in there, yes.
Okay. And then the third thing that you mentioned, which was, no, okay, that's the 2 I can, there was a third one I can't find it right now. Thank you.
Yeah, Andy wanted to address. maybe-
Harry, let me try to address your first question. The actual code of conduct is a code of conduct governing the premises. It doesn't actually say who it's for, it's to protect. The purpose is to protect the rights and safety of members, guests, staff members, and the facilities. So it doesn't actually say it's for this group or this body, it's actually for everybody who's under the umbrella of being inside of a building or on the premises.
Okay.
Is someone at the end?
Yes, I think you had your hand raised next.
Lois is my name. I think it's a good idea, and I'm just curious, does Del Webb, Lincoln Hills, or Rossmore, do they also have a code of conduct such as this? Or is this from this couple of incidents a year?
I checked briefly on the internet. I could not find a Rossmore code of conduct. I think I checked Lincoln Hills and I couldn't find that either, because that's obviously the first place I would start looking when drafting an association code of conduct. After I couldn't find anything in that direction, then I went to other associations and libraries. And libraries, what I read to you is pretty much what libraries have. So, yes.
Will, my name is Pat.
Could you speak up, please?
Yes. Will the code of conduct apply to homeowners and neighborhoods? And you were talking about the premises. I think of the buildings. I think of like the facilities. But will it apply to me in my home?
No. And the reason is because we have no jurisdiction over you and your home.
Is it a civil thing?
That would be a civil thing. It would be like disturbing the peace.
Yeah.
You would have to call the police. Our bylaws give us a directive. We basically are here to provide recreational facilities. And so this is basically to protect the conduct that occurs within our facilities. It has nothing to do with what happens between neighbors and that sort of thing. That you would have to there go to the laws that are in effect to deal with situations like that. Yes.
I think we just celebrated our 50th anniversary, Frank. And I'm curious how it is that we think we managed to go 50 years without this. Have we gotten that uncivil, or do we not have bigger fish to fry for the board's attention?
You know, I don't know. Yet again, we may establish this, and it may not be used. Everyone is very, nice. It doesn't cause problems. I don't know what's going on. I thought the same thing. I thought 50 years, we got through 50 years without having to have this. But, you know, I was so upset that I had no power to do anything when this last incident occurred. And, you know, I'm responsible for the premises, and what goes on in those premises, and I just didn't, you know, I wanted something that I could do. Yes,
I
Bridget?
have a question for you. This is, since I live here, it's the second time, Bonnie, that something like that happened, okay? The first time, it was when Mr. Swanson was still here. It happened at the swimming pool, at the Central. So how come Mr. Swanson had the authority to do something? He banned him from all our activities and using all the facilities. He must have had the power to do it. I don't get it.
It's very, may I comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead, Herm.
I realize that that's exactly what's happened.
Right.
But if that had ever been challenged in court, I think it would have been found that he did not have that authority. He just took that authority.
Okay, but that was is your opinion. We don't know that.
That's right. And he didn't know that either at the time.
Yeah, and Bridget, after this incident occurred, I read the bylaws and I read everything to try to see if I had some authority. I couldn't find it. I didn't have any authority. Yes?
I know that the Sun City Del Red communities, some of them actually have called for conduct.
Really?
And yes, you have to respect the premises, and there are different things that will happen to you. You might lose a membership for a while, or have a fine. So I can find out more about it because I have a house there.
Yeah. If the board approves of going forward, we will be submitting this probably to Sandra Gottlieb, the attorney we use. On occasion, we use 2 attorneys, and she's one of the top homeowners association attorneys, and she apparently, I think, has experience in drafting things like this and knows it. So I think she will guide us quite a bit. Yes, sir.
Did I understand the board is going to consider whether or not you're going to allow people to take signatures indoors? You're going to decide whether you're going to continue to allow that, or there's a possibility that you may.
Well, we're going to run it by the attorney. I know that most public entities, and we're a semi-public entity in the sense that we have community facilities and that sort of thing, allow petitioning to occur, but usually it's like you set up a table outside the front door, and as people come by, you say, hey, we'd like to sign a petition, that sort of thing. And that's the way it's done. I know that probably recently it's been because it's been very hot outside, and it's much more comfortable to sit inside and take petitions, or take signatures, things like that. And I'm cognizant of that problem. I want the attorney to take a look at it and see, you know, are we going too far on this, or, you know, or can we word it differently so that, you know, we can avoid this kind of problem.
Right.
You know, let's be frank. I mean, there's a big competition going on right now between pickleball, pro pickleball, and anti-pickleball. There's a lot of heated emotions
Right.
In the community on this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if someone is on one side, is in the building, and the opposition walks in, it's just ripe, perhaps, to create a problem. And I'm looking at the entire community. I'm not just looking at the 2 parties. That's
I understand that. Well, my name is Larry Souza, and I'm the gentleman that was verbally accosted at the CAC. And I don't want to see that policy changed throughout Oakmont, or all of Oakmont, for that one individual doing what happened. We're a senior community, so it depends upon the weather, if it's raining, not raining, hot, not hot. I don't think that you want to take away the privilege of being allowed to be indoors taking signatures, as long as you don't block the entryway, don't hinder anybody's, whatever they're doing. I would hope the board would really take that into consideration, because I hate to see that happen.
Yeah, well, you know, I certainly understand that feeling, and I have similar thoughts, actually. Okay, so, but I had to think about, well, suppose we had, the group that favored Donald Trump, and they wanted to set up a table inside the CAC, or Sanders, or Hillary Clinton, or anybody else. Do we really want that occurring inside our facility? Okay.
You had
So
that
maybe
yesterday.
we should just
You had that yesterday outside the CAC.
Oh,
There was
okay.
a group for Bernie Sanders that was soliciting
I didn't know that.
outside in a car table on CAC, and we did get some homeowners coming to the administrative office, absolutely livid.
Oh, my gosh. Prescient. Well, that's what I was thinking of. You had a comment?
All I wanted to say was when you were speaking with your attorney, because, oh, I'm sorry. When you're speaking with your attorney, when you're going and drafting this policy, I would just encourage you to make it two-sided on all sides, whether that is, pardon me, not necessarily you, but staff to resident, or resident to staff, or volunteer, and just so there's an equality there.
Okay, we'll try to make it as comprehensive as possible. Okay. Let's see. I haven't heard from you back there. Yes.
I just want to make sure it includes the board, because part of this whole thing, we've had some issues with board members too. So-
Okay. All right. I'll bring that to the attention of the attorney.
Thank you.
Okay. I think it's included, but I mean,
Okay.
I'll make a point of bringing that up. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mine is a clarification, being a political year, 2016, so no political party can come on premises? I think you said that when you first started reading your code of conduct, you said political.
Well, the way I drafted it preliminarily, you could do it outside the premises. You could set up a table. I even thought about having a clause saying 45 feet from the front door of the premises, because I've stepped off 45 feet, and it's for all three of our facilities. And basically, it allows the table to be set up right at the entrance at the sidewalk, where they can catch people coming in, that sort of thing. But I don't know if it's necessary to go that far, but no, it would not preclude petitioning outside the premises. It would just be, you wouldn't be able to obstruct the passage, people coming in, or to, capture them, and that sort of thing. Yes, Bridget?
This is the first time that happened. In 21 years I lived here. Why do we have to change that for that one time? People behave badly. They should know that they did. But you shouldn't change for everybody else, like he said. I think that's ridiculous. I really do.
Well, we're not changing anything. Everybody who's law-abiding can ignore this.
We always could continue.
Yeah, it's the people who cause problems that are going to be concerned about this. Not you and me, Bridget. Yes, the back of the room.
I lived here for 2 months. And the other day, someone was screaming at me at the top of his lungs and said he's going to find out where I live and burn down my house.
Oh.
At the pool, this pool. Okay, so I'm just wondering what you have as a suggestion for that kind of behavior.
Well, I've passed my policy, and we'll take care of it. I mean, if that happens again,
Witnesses?
yeah, was that on the weekend?
No,
Okay.
weekday morning.
Could you
Okay.
come and see me? I'd like to find out what that was all about.
Sure.
But I'd also point out, that's criminal behavior.
Right.
And the right thing to do is to dial 911. It's not even an OVA issue at that point. This person is threatening to burn down your house. That's against the law.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just our policy. There's all kinds of state statutes and city policies. John.
We signed that.
Oh, yes.
Two things I forgot before. One, you had said something about this is really codes around facilities. Does the facilities include parking lots and sports courts?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then the second thing you said, it could be withdrawing membership privileges. What does that mean?
Well, if it were in our fine policy or the due process hearing penalties and that sort of thing, you could say you can't go into the CAC for 1 month. You could say you can't go there for 1 week. If it's, I guess it's possible you could say you couldn't go there for a year. I don't think we could take it away forever or anything like that. But as long as you're reasonable and you give a due process hearing and all that, and tailor your penalty according to the type of conduct that occurred, then you can do that sort of thing. But you have to have a policy to do it. Yes, ma'am?
Well, I
think that the attorney ought to look into this fine bit. I've heard it off and on. I think we're overdoing the word, the expression, and how it would be handled. I mean, we're all adults. I object to the fine bit.
Well,
because I've heard it on small things too.
yeah. You know, I would imagine the first thing that's going to happen in most of these occasions, if it, you know, I hope we don't have a lot of occasions, but maybe just a warning saying, don't do that again, or else we're going to, you know, have to have a hearing.
The worms that it can backfire in lots of ways.
Yeah, no, we're not, and you know, we don't really make money on fines, that sort of thing. So you know, the purpose is the purpose is just to stop the bad conduct.
Not as much as the
Yeah.
fine or the amount of the money is not as much as just saying the fine just ruffles my feathers.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I understand that. Yes.
I will tell you an incident that happened in Vegas why it was good to have a code of conduct too, because there was a man that was upset and he was in the swimming pool and he went to the bathroom in the swimming pool. And it was not number one. So they had to drain the pool and then it had to be totally cleaned out, and he came in again and tried to get in, and by that time they had talked to his family too and said never to come back again, and he was banned from using the facility. And the family had to pay, or he had to pay for the cleaning of the pool. So unexpected things happen, so you need a code of conduct.
All right. Again, you know, no one should worry about this code of conduct if you just, you know, just behave. Yes? Yeah, now see, that wouldn't be covered though, because that occurred on City of Santa Rosa property. Okay, and OVA has nothing to do with that. We're just here to protect our premises. Yes?
There's something you just said, where you said we don't earn anything on the fine. Where do fines and citations go then, if we don't earn anything?
Well, I'm saying in the large picture, we don't earn anything. Okay. No, we do have the power to go to small claims court and attempt to collect the monies. Sometimes we collect the monies voluntarily, that sort of thing. So we do collect, but I'm saying that we're not going to make a fortune on this. This is not the purpose of this.
No, I got that.
Yeah, the purpose is punishment.
Does it go into our budget somehow?
It goes into general. It goes into the general account.
General funds.
Yeah, right.
It's not budgeted because we don't fine people enough. But if you would get a fine for whatever reason, you get a statement saying this is fine you're getting, it's X amount of dollars and you need to pay it within the next 30 days. And then it goes on your statement. And most people pay them.
Okay, did we get a general idea of what's going on? Okay, I'm going to ask the board now. Do you want to proceed further on both of these policies?
As I understand it, we have no authority to discipline anybody who does malbehavior in any of our facilities at this time.
Not that I see. The only thing we can do is call the police. For instance, if there's a disturbance of the peace, we can call the police to stop it, okay? But if it's already stopped, then, you know.
But if somebody's doing something...
Then you can go and get a restraining order to try to prevent the activity occurring. But all that's very expensive and time-consuming.
I'm concerned about the overbreadth of the type of behavior that can cause penalties. Nonetheless, I think we have no choice but to do it.
Well, and we can cut it down, you know. We'll start with this and to see what our attorney says, and you know, if the attorney thinks we're going overboard, we can cut it down. Herb?
Well, I recognize, Bridget, that we've gotten along without a policy like this for a number of years. And I don't consider this a high priority for all, because of all the other things that we have on our plate right now. But I do think it's worth studying in the near future to see if we can come up with a reasonable policy. I think we need something to give us some backing in case of incidents. And these incidents may occur more often. We don't know. But I just think it's something we don't want to drop completely. As I say, I don't want it number one on our priority list right now.
Any other comments?
I do think the code of conduct is something we should pursue. I also think the employee abuse policy is more important. I think we do have a duty to protect our employees. And although we may not have heard so many incidents about it, I do believe there have been quite a few occurrences of employee abuse, and I think we need to make sure we put something in place.
Okay, we can't actually take any action here because this is a workshop. Pardon?
We can't take action.
Right, right. But we'll just do further investigation, and I'll put this on the, if we get some input from our attorney before now on the next board meeting, I'll put this on the agenda for the next board meeting. Okay, let's go ahead and proceed to the next item. Number 3, facility AV use fee. Cassie, do you want to kind of summarize what we're talking about here?
We sometimes have a problem with people who are having events at night, and they need a more sophisticated person, an audiovisual person, to perhaps help them put on the presentation, whatever it is. It could be help with the band and whatever requirements they're needing, the hookups to whatever they're needing. What we've run into in the past is that because things are, and computers and equipment are becoming more sophisticated, we only have one employee here, Brad Moore, that has the capacity to help people if they need assistance with this equipment at night. During the day, we could pretty much cover it, but at night or on the weekends, it's a problem. So I've tried to enlist people to volunteer to maybe train in a program, but you know, realistically, what resident is going to want to sit there on a 7 o'clock on a Saturday night and help somebody out for free, you know, with their audio visual equipment. So what we're trying to come up with is maybe 1 or 2 people who would be willing to volunteer, maybe put on the rental form, the event form, that if they need that kind of expertise, that there's going to be a charge for it, because we're not always capable of providing that service for the people who need it.
Okay, any discussion? I'm a little concerned with the mechanics on how this is going to work. I can see if, so are you. I can see if we had an employee who is setting up the audio equipment, that OVA could say, well, we're going to be charging you, the member who's using our facility, for our employee's time, and that'll be $50 an hour, and then that goes into our general fund, and that helps to pay for our employee. But if we're getting volunteers to go out in the evenings to set up this thing, how do we collect the $50 through OVA and then turn it over to someone who's not an employee?
I agree.
That's
It's a problem.
That's a problem. Okay.
Rick, I think you're standing here in the corner. What about, I want your thought on the idea of perhaps having one person on each shift that's trained as Brad is. Would that make sense? And do we have time to add that to all the other jobs in the bucket, or is it unreasonable?
What's happened, excuse me, what's happening is a lot of people that come to these different events, there's a lot of different technology right now. And when we buy special adapters and stuff that we keep in our carts and stuff, when they come to the event, and then sometimes the adapters just disappear. And some of the equipment that the residents have is older equipment. It will not interface with some of our new stuff that we have. So, you know, there's Macs, there's PCs, there's a lot of different types of equipment out there. And so we did look at a couple of people There was a couple of vendors that we used to use at the hotel, that they're willing to come in and do it, but they just have to have long enough notice in order to get in the schedule. So there is somebody available like that. As far as having somebody on both shifts, at the current time, we don't have the skill sets for that.
Yes, you have a solution for us?
Why don't you just have a notice goes out to the person who's gonna rent the place, the system that you have, if yours is adequate to work that way, fine. If it's not, have somebody in your party come and check it out. But have a notice at the OV when they go there to sign in for the rental.
Thank you. Yes?
Well, what you're saying is true, and I think what Rick is saying is very interesting, because I was in that situation where we had 140 people, and we were doing a presentation, and it didn't work, and as it turned out later, we found out the wall hookup AT&T had been taken out or moved for some reason or fallen out. But I think my point is that we're in a technological age, and we're trying to do very sophisticated things. We're already into all the presentations for lifelong learning and stuff. We did end up. I ended up calling a friend of mine during dinner. He was nice enough to come over, and eventually we got it hooked up. It seems to me that technology is so integral to our lives in general that maybe we should consider, paying somebody who actually knows this stuff, who can actually do it. I mean, we have other experts, we have maintenance. You're asking maintenance to pick it up, but do they have computer skills? And then you mentioned all the different kind of equipment. Is there any way we could, we still use volunteers, like for the lifelong learning, we have volunteers to go over and do it, but all of our equipment varies, and it seems to me this may take more than volunteers to get this job done.
Cassie, why isn't the communication committee working on this?
It's a thought, but it's not technical. I mean, the communications committee isn't technical. They're about the newspaper and the e-blast and the online news. But why would this be dumped on them?
Comment?
So we have nobody.
Yeah, Herm?
We used to have an audiovisual committee. It was disbanded a number of years ago. That's just one comment. My main comment is that I think that we have to provide competent service to run our AV facilities. I don't think we can let anybody come in and do it. And we have to provide some way that we know that whoever is running the AV facility for that function is capable of doing that. Since we cannot, at this time at least, have a staff member available for all of that, I think that the idea that we get a list of people willing to do it for a price is the best temporary solution at least. I've always felt that it's our duty to provide that service with staff if possible, but it's not possible right now. We don't have the staff available to do that right now. So I think that some method of coming up with a list of people like who was mentioned in here that are available and would be willing to do it and for a set price, and that the people who are putting on that function know what that price is going to be, that might be the solution for the time being at least.
And we would basically say to the person putting on the event, this is between you and the volunteer or the person who's being paid $50 an hour to figure this out. We just make this available to you. They've said they will help you. If you want help, it's gonna cost you $50 an hour.
It's gonna kill a lot of that.
I would say it goes a little bit whether they want help or not.
Yeah, they don't have to.
If they have someone that we know is capable of providing that, that's one thing. If they don't have someone that we know is capable, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that the equipment is operated properly.
No, I think you had your hand up first.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the process, and one of the things that it starts with is when somebody reserves a room, they check whether they're going to use the AV system. Now, it seems like that's happening during the day. We generally don't have a problem. Either the club has someone or we can back them up. If it's an evening or a weekend event, it may be a requirement that whoever is going to run their AV meets with our person during normal hours and make sure they have the right adapter and that their computer works and so forth. And then in addition, we do have sort of a cadre of people who call on in Oakmont when they need help with their computers. And some of those people might be interested in expanding their, consultancy that they do. I mean, these are people who charge by the hour. Some of those might be willing to become AV service people, so that if they don't have anybody that can run it this after hours, then, yeah.
Okay, yes?
The situation we had, I think what he's saying is pretty good. The situation we had was, the person doing it went the day before during the day with a staff member. It operated fine. There was no problem. But that night, the next night when we got it set up, something crashed.
Downstairs?
Yeah, downstairs here. A wire fell or was yanked out of the wall. Well, what do? There's no staff people here. What do? So we ended up calling other people, and we finally found a way around it, but by that time the meeting was half over.
Yes?
I can tell you from our experience with movies at Oakmont, which I kind of head up, and we show 2 movies every Sunday, with some exceptions. And the problems that crop up when we're showing movies, I couldn't even list them at this point. Things totally unexpected. Pat Barclay is our go-to guy.
He's the only guy. He is the only guy.
But we've called him down there on numerous occasions where he stood there for 20 minutes and like, I have never seen this happen before. And he checks cables, and he checks something else, he checks the equipment, and nevertheless, I'd say twice a month, we have some problem trying to show a movie. And this is with, of course, amateurs like myself, but we're the only ones who can do it. If we don't do it, there wouldn't be movies at Oakland.
Did you?
Yeah, are there, speaking of missing equipment, are there significant deposits being collected that they don't get back until all the equipment is turned in, be it adapters or whatever? We shouldn't be missing adapters.
Well, adapters, how much, $15, for an adapter. I don't know that we're asking for a deposit. I think that the people who are checking people out after the event should be more cognizant of checking every single thing to make sure it's back in place. And I'm not so sure that happens.
Probably the adapter, they use the adapter, but when they leave, it's still stuck to their equipment as they're taking it out the door.
And they can come back tomorrow and bring the adapter back.
Right.
And get their money back.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, okay.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, we would then have to itemize the adapters and check them. Yeah. Right, okay.
Go ahead, no.
Okay. Sorry. No, just out of curiosity, do we have in our budget some kind of thing called cultural fund? So that when we need the technical kind of support we're talking about, that maybe with this going on in our community, which is for our benefit, do we support it in some way?
We have a full fund.
No, we don't have a cultural fund. We have a general fund, and we can always pay out of the general fund for such things as this. I think we're talking more about how we set it up in terms of who's going to do it and how would they get paid. Could be an employee, that sort of thing. Okay, Cassie, have we talked about this enough? I don't know what.
There's no good answer.
Yeah, well, here's a possible answer. I was thinking about this, and I have a technical background, but I can't keep up with everything myself. What if we had, you have to think this through, just ideas come up. What if we had a program here where the people that are qualified to operate and to set up this equipment, we give them a card, a certificate, they've been trained in all these things, and have a list of those names at the office. And it goes back similar to what Herb said when we previously had a committee that did that. But if we had a significant number of people that were certificated, then it would be up to the person who's setting up their program to contact one of those people to help them, and rather than dump the whole load on us that we can't supply. I think that might be workable.
We can't get anybody. That's what I'm saying is, maybe, Al, we could write a little newspaper article or something and try and solicit, but I've tried to solicit several times in my emails and no one's come forward, because again, it has to do with at nighttime and on the weekends. It's at odd times, and that impacts the kind of people who would want to waste a Saturday night going to an event that someone else is having.
When we've spent 5 years trying to get people to help with moves to Oakmont, which is relatively simple, and we've gotten 2 people in 5 years who left shortly after we started.
Okay. All right, well, I think, unless anybody has a really brilliant idea, I'm going to call an end to this discussion. We'll just have to work on it and see what we can come up with. I want to move on to the next item, which is the Central Activity Center coffee cart. Yes, Melissa, would you like to speak? Would you, or maybe you just want us to work on your presentation you gave us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can summarize it for you if you'd like.
Yeah, any questions you have?
Okay. As the board has seen in their packet, basically Melissa has been outside the CAC serving coffee for the past about 3-4 months, 5 months, something like that. And now it's getting cold. And by the way, we had some new heaters, and my wife and I really enjoyed those heaters outside having coffee. They work. Yeah, we bought a couple. Yeah, we bought a couple of heaters to set outside where the coffee cart is, and you kick them on, and it can be rainy, and you're really comfortable out there. So, but in any case, now it's getting cold, and so Melissa would like to move inside the lobby of the CAC. And what she has proposed is she has, well, I don't know how many people have seen the cart, but she has a cart that's outside that she had built specifically for this purpose. That cart can be brought inside. It can be basically stored up against the wall. And then when she comes in the morning, she would basically bring it back out and set up her coffee shop. It would require that we take down one puzzle table while she has the coffee cart there. That's the location, the best location for the coffee cart. And then after she's through for the day, she would push the coffee cart back. I guess we can put the table back up and people can work on their puzzles. Well, that would not work. I mean, you gotta just, what are you gonna do with a puzzle? We may have to eliminate one puzzle table unless we can find another place for another puzzle table. Or move them next together, they could have coffee and do the puzzle. Okay, so anyhow, she wants to go ahead and move inside. She'd like to continue this. I'm going to open it for board discussion, and then I'll give my personal opinion.
What about putting your cart in front of the sink in that area there? You know, where we have a sink and a counter there. How about putting a coffee cart in front of that?
And you know, I thought of that, but it seems to sort of block the path of people going to the fitness center. And I just wanted the cart to kind of be out of the way, inconspicuous, where it doesn't block the path of traffic, or, you know, it just seemed like the best place. I don't know, I need some space between the sink and I think it would just come out too far. I don't know, I mean, I could try it.
Well, I think we have two things here. They're both valuable. One, everybody really likes to work on those puzzles, or many people do. And everybody wants to also have your coffee card. So I think some adjustment should be able to be made to have them both in there.
The way I see it, I think what we may be deciding today is whether to allow her to move in, period. And then she can try one particular situation. If it doesn't seem to be working out, we can try moving it someplace else until we get the right combination. But one concern that has been raised in prior discussions among the board is that people will be spilling their coffee on the carpet. It's going to happen. I mean, but you know, I buy my coffee outside. Sometimes I come inside and sit on the couch and drink my coffee, so I'm going to be spilling it anyhow. Yeah, right, yeah. Well, I don't know.
I think it's worked out very, very well. I think I speak for many of us that we appreciate what you're doing there. Obviously, you're doing it for profit, but it's a great benefit to us. And so the whole point is I'd like to see it continued. If the weather is inclement, I'd welcome to see it inside and just keep on doing things. I don't like to micromanage, to tell you where you have to set your card exactly. As Frank pointed out, we can move it around and find out what's appropriate. You can count my vote when it comes up that I'm in favor of it.
Andy?
I too am in agreement with John and everybody else that's spoken so far. I think the service and having you here has been phenomenal, Melissa, and I thank you for everything, and I'm ready to bring you indoors.
We can't really, is this something that we have to make a decision on? If so, we can't do it. Or is it something we can just direct the manager to allow this to happen? Isn't this the best?
I can do that as president.
Yeah. Huh?
If everyone's, I'll do that as president. Okay.
I too think we should let Cassie make this decision and make it appropriately.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. It's been an enjoyable thing having you there and having coffee in the morning. I think a lot of people appreciate it. So, thank you.
I just
Yes.
want to be sure I have this right now. You directed Cassie to allow her to come inside, right?
Yes.
And is the spot adjacent to the library? I just want to have that clear in my mind.
No, it's inside the lobby of the Central Activities Center.
Right, but I mean, there's the library wall. Is that where the car would be?
No, meeting room.
It'd be over in the corner where the meeting room meets the front window.
Where the clock is.
Again, we can't make a decision, but could I ask that maybe it be considered to start in front of the sink and see what happens?
No.
No, okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah.
Herb, you cannot make any decisions today.
3 minutes.
Okay, well, thank you, Melissa. So, that's good. Okay, that's the agenda today. So again, I thank everybody for coming and thank you.